Welcome to my sewing room. Today, I want to share with you some great ideas for working with fleece. This wonder fabric requires no sewing. Our projects today are great for young hands to make or teens who want to make a project but don't know how to sew. I like to use these projects as an enticement to get a young person handling fabric. Who knows? It can spark an interest in sewing and making trendy items. Fleece is for everyone. Let's get the creative ideas flowing. I'm so pleased to have as my guests today, Julie and Lindsay, and we're going to have so much fun with these fleece projects. I happen to think that this is a fun project to do. It is a no-sew, and since I happen to be a Chi-O and was in a sorority, when I was in college, I liked this one. And this is a bigger pillow. This is for AD Pi. That's another wonderful sorority. And Julie, I know you're in a sorority, and I'd like to ask you to show us this pillow.
Sure. It's so much fun to do and so easy. It's really great and fun, and you can throw it on your bed, and it's so cute, and it's such a great idea. The first thing we do is we find a pillow and we measure it and see how big it is. And then you want to have two pieces of fabric that are a little bit bigger than your pillow. So if you had a 10-inch pillow, you might want to make it 13 or 14 inches. So you cut them into squares like this. You want a back and a front, like that.
I got it.
And then you cut a piece of paper to measure how big your pillow would be. And we attached it with just a spray adhesive that'll come off. And so we put it like this on the fabric, and then you start cutting strips, and you want to make the strips as long as you want, just so that you can tie them together. And then you want to make them about the same length all the way across. And then we also cut out a square right here, so that way you'll be able to tie it and it'll form around your pillow.
That cute little pillow.
This cute little pillow. So at first, you just start tying, and then you're going to put your pillow inside. So we've already started to tie here. So you take the front and the back of your fabric and you just tie it in a knot like this. And it's just so easy. No sewing.
It's so much fun and a project for everyone.
It is a project for everyone.
Lindsay, you have something adorable that you made. Could you tell us about it?
Yes. I made a pair of flip-flops out of fleece, and what you do is you just cut simple strips of fleece about the same size and tie them on your flip-flops, and it's real simple to do. And I think it would be fun to do it at a birthday party for like a lot of girls to just make a pair of them and bring them home.
Oh, Lindsay, that's such a great idea of having a birthday party. Do your friends enjoy doing crafty kinds of things?
Yeah.
Well, I think you can teach them a brand new project, don't you? You know, Lindsay, I noticed that you were, you really did kind of like this. We were laughing and saying this might be a skirt for Lindsay, and you know what, it really could be a skirt, but I think it'd make an adorable quilt too.
Yes.
And I bet your friends could do this too, couldn't they?
Yeah.
I tell you, we're going to have some fleece birthday parties for you. We are just having so much fun with fleece. It is absolutely the greatest. You know, my granddaughters are going to love these fleece projects also. They really love to sew, but they really like things that are no-sew also. Julie and Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me today. You're just beautiful, both of you, and we love knowing that younger people are really loving to sew, and it's just a joy to have you two beautiful girls with me today.
Thank you.
And next I have some fleece ideas for you, some more fleece ideas for you. I have some of the most wonderful ideas to use this fabulous fleece, and we have chosen this wonderful sorority fleece because it is just a fun way to celebrate college sorority membership. Now, it is great to do jams. As a matter of fact, we have a short pair of jams, and by the way, we did make them in miniature so you can see. And then we have the long jams. I know my granddaughters love to wear fleece anything in the winter, and by the way, so do I. But you can do the pajama pants or the short pajamas, and again, it is so much fun to use the sorority letters. Now, This pillow just has so many possibilities. This happens to be a FIMU pillow, and just like Julie and Lindsay have just shown you, you cut the corners out and you slice the pieces. Except instead of tying this pillow, simply finished it by sewing a straight line of stitching all the way around it. Now I have something really interesting to show you on the back. Let me turn it over. You can, if you have a machine that monograms, you can put the sorority sister's name or your daughter's name and the initiation date, the pledge date. I just think these would be the greatest gifts to give to your big sister or to your little sister. And any one of the dates could be used, any one the wonderful special things that happen inside a sorority. And there are a lot of different dates to celebrate. And you know what else this would be great? It would be great to give, to do a business with. I'm telling you, there are a lot of girls and some guys too that do earn money with sewing while they're going to college to earn extra money or even put themselves through. And this would be a great project to let the word out that you were going to make the different sorority pillows and monogram the names on them. I guarantee you this is a good business idea to earn money. Now, this is precious. This happens to be KD, and this is a little bulletin board that I think nearly every college girl in her room has a bulletin board of some kind. And this one is so special to slip pictures in, or football ticket stubs, or the different little things that you would like to save. And I know that when I was in the sorority house, we had something on the outside of the door with, I think there were 2 girls that roomed in one room. We had something on the outside of the door telling whose room it was. Wouldn't this bulletin board just be a great thing to have on the outside of the door to let people know who live there? And also, it's just fun to celebrate that wonderful time in life for those of us that were fortunate enough to be in a sorority and have the wonderful sisterhood of that time of life. And you know what? I hope you enjoy this fleece as much as we do. It is so easy and so much fun. And I really enjoyed having Julie and Lindsay to help me on this show with our fleece. And next, I have some scrapbooking ideas for you. Sometimes there just has to be the most special scrapbook page in the world, and that happens to be, I think, for a new baby or a new grandbaby or a new godchild or niece or nephew. We have the most beautiful page for you today. This is at the actual photograph, and what you really will want to do is go to your photocopy place or use your own computer if you have a computer and get a copy made rather than just using the actual portrait. Then this wonderful silk ribbon, little tiny silk ribbon, has been looped and swirled, making a beautiful swirl around it. And I call these the pearls. Well, now really they're kind of fake pearls, but there's a wonderful applicator where you can put pearls or diamonds, of course, you know they're not real, around. And you see there's entredeaux and gathered lace and tiny little pearls at the corner of this sweet baby picture. By the way, this is all done on a piece of silk dupioni. Now, the really most beautiful part, other than the picture of the baby, of course, is this beautiful silk ribbon, well, excuse me, not silk ribbon, but machine embroidery that has a baby rattle and little tassels and baby shoes. All in all, this just goes together to make a beautiful scrapbook page. Now, I will share with you that this one is done on a piece of silk dupioni. This embroidery, by the way, you need a placement. Do make a little paper copy in order to place your embroidery. This would probably be too heavy an embroidery to stitch on paper, so we're doing this particular scrapbook sheet on a piece of beautiful silk dupioni. All right, you're going to embroider whatever embroidery you choose, and you also could put the baby's name and birth date or whatever information, if you would like to, on your fabric. Now, I told you we used the regular picture. This is a paper picture. Entredeaux with one side trimmed is slipped underneath and very carefully glued as if it has been sewn to the picture. But we're probably going to need to glue the entredeaux, then clip off the edges. This is the French lace which has been gathered. Now we're going to actually, after we glue the entredeaux, we're going to butt the gathered French lace up to the entredeaux and zigzag it all the way around. You know, it's one thing that's really important to remember when you go around the edges. Anytime you're turning a corner with lace, be sure you put extra gathers to go around the corner. It just makes it really pretty and doesn't cup under. Now, when we get ready to do the placement, put the whole thing back together again. Let me bring the page over to show you. This is the final page, and as you can see, the little loopies of silk ribbon are around there. And to put these little pearls on, I didn't get this hot because I didn't want to pull it in my lap and burn myself, but this is a wonderful little applicator. When it's hot, you just put it on top of the little pearls. It automatically picks them up, and then you bring it over and put it down. There's glue already on the pearls, by the way. You put it down, and it glues right where you put it. And you can not only use pearls, but there are all different kinds of stones you can use with that little applicator. And now I have a home decorating project for you. I'm so happy to have as my guest today Phyllis Hoffman. Phyllis is the publisher of Southern Lady Magazine, Tea Time Magazine, and Southern Baby Magazine. Phyllis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Martha. And today we have a beautiful wall hanging, and it is done the most beautiful pastel silks and lace. And I frankly love it because Log Cabin was the first quilt that I ever made. And it's so easy because it's strips of fabric, and it goes together in a color combination to create an absolutely fabulous piece. And get starting is very simple. I like to keep my collections of lace on a tube and my silk dupioni as well. Just simply, when I finish a project, we'll cut it into beautiful strips and roll it on a tube, and then I have it for I'm ready to do a quilt or a wall hanging. We start with a square in the center, and we just simply take our strips and slice them into squares. And then all a log cabin is a continual moving around the square, adding a piece of fabric as we go. But heirloom sewers love to use lace snippets as well. And Martha, we're even using edging inside the quilt, which I think is great. And we apply it to a strip of fabric, coming away from the edge slightly so that it's not caught in the seam allowance. And we'll simply put it in place. And I like to sew mine with a stay stitch. I like for it to be positioned there. And here's what it looks like when we put our first piece together. Our center block, 1/4 inch seam, and then we fold it flat. Now, pressing is a key to making a beautiful log cabin. I like to press toward the center, and whatever direction we start is the direction we continue, so that when we meet in the corner, we don't have a traffic jam of fabric seams, because that gets really bad. And you can see how we've progressed from the center lights, and we just keep going around the fabric. Now, one of the secrets that we have in using lace edging, we must zigzag it in place so that it won't stand up. And we have used a blue thread here so that you can see how easy it is. Once you piece with it, you just simply sew on top of it. That will also keep it very, very secure. And as we have in our quilt, we have lace on one side of the block and solids on the other. And that's a beautiful technique. And let's go to the board and look, Martha, right here, we have simply put our blocks together. We butted the lace edges together, and so that creates a beautiful design. And then by the forcing of the blue edges, it creates almost a sashing or inner border look. But the secret to this quilt is the beautiful machine embroidery. That is fabulous. And Martha, talk about that machine embroidery technique.
Well, you know what? It's just so many designs come in red work, quote unquote. Now, we know red work is supposed to be done in red thread, but red work designs can be used for quilting. So the actual quilting of this quilt has been done after you put the batting and the backing on the back with these wonderful red work designs, or even outlines. Some, you can do an outline stitch for some embroideries, but these are really red work designs done in a beautiful ecru or off-white thread, and they're quilted. The quilt is quilted here and here and here, and to me, Phyllis, it just adds that wonderful texture.
It really does. And stitching in the ditch is also a great way to secure before you do your machine embroidery. But then we put it together, and then we have an heirloom quilt.
An heirloom wall hanging. You know what, Phyllis, if this were being made, this is sort of very much a baby look. And you could certainly do some machine embroidery with the baby's name, the date, and maybe even the grandmother's name.
Absolutely. Knew you'd throw that in.
Oh, I have to throw that in. And now I have a So Quick segment for you. We got this idea for these shoe savers from Beverley Sheldrick because when she travels from New Zealand, she really does keep these put inside her shoes, and she also keeps each pair of shoes after she puts these in the toes of the shoes. She puts each pair of shoes in a silk dupioni bag when she travels, and it really does save the toes of your shoes from getting mashed. There are also some really interesting French sewing techniques with these little shoe savers. First of all, you use your pattern and trace it off on your double layer of silk dupioni. Now there's a little trick to this. You're going to sew before you cut it out. You know why? That seam allowance, if you tried to cut it out, especially with silk dupioni, which is a little ravelly, if you tried to cut it out and then sew that tiny seam allowance, it would be so hard to do. So before you cut your pattern out, go ahead and sew your straight stitch around and then cut it out, leaving your seam allowance before you turn it right side out. One more little trick, you need to zigzag the edges of the top. Now just far enough down for the top where the top of this little shoe saver is going to be. You zigzag the edges and then you turn it right side out, and after you turn it right side out, you're going to attach the lace all the way around. Now I'm almost to this point. Let's pretend like I'm at this point now, except I do have my machine embroidery. Then I put a rubber band around the top. By the way, you got to stuff it with a polyfill of some kind. You put a rubber band around it to hold it, and then you go ahead and just tie a bow. And these are great little ways to be sure that if you travel with your nice shoes, that the toes of those shoes do not get mashed. And besides that, you can be like Beverley Sheldrick if you have an elegant pair of toe savers to go in your shoes. And next, I have a really, really lovely section of hand embroidery stitches for you. I am so pleased to have as my guest today Beverley Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverley is a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine. She has taught needlework worldwide. She teaches on a regular basis at the School of Art Fashion in Huntsville. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you for inviting me to be on your show. Martha, today I'm going to show your viewers how to do this fluffy rose. It's the one that's at the top there, and there's just a simple bud that goes with it. It's a very pretty rose and surprisingly very stable. It doesn't seem to be taught very often, and I don't really know why, because it is such a pretty one. But I'm now going to show your viewers just how to do it. Now, once more, of course, you know, it's our old friend, the French knot. And once more, we're going to make them nice and cuddly, you know, just snuggled up close together. You can see I've just got a little triangle here of these French knots, and always, of course, use the darker colour. Then you will see that I have gone round once, just gathering it, and I'm just going to show you in a moment just how to do that. And you will see here, I wanted the rose to be a little bit bigger. And so consequently, when I got back to the end point, I then continued under, going round just here. The stitches are just a little bit under that first lot that go round. And of course, you can make these any size you want. Sometimes I'll go round another half time, sometimes I'll go round 2 or 3 times, and sometimes I will, at this point, I will move to a third colour, so you have the graduation of colours going round. Now, of course, the bud is, I think, probably the simplest of them all, just a straight stitch and with that lovely fly stitch around it in thread. So we're going to do it. It's very simple. We all know, don't we, how easy it is to do French knots. So here we are. Of course, always remember, girls, don't put the needle back in the same spot. I've seen girls doing that, and then they've wondered why they've lost their knot. It just went down the rabbit hole. And
down the rabbit hole.
You know, they put, because there's no threads there between where they came up and where they came down, and so that you don't lose it. And of course, you can see here that I've done those 3 little knots, just cuddling each other there. Now, Martha, we're going to bring the silk ribbon up from the back, just as we always do, and I'm going to take it in the direction that I'm going to work. Now you will also see that I've got another needle with some machine thread in it, like this, and this is what I'm going to do. I find that it's very helpful if you turn your needle round like this, and then you can use it like a little pick to pick up just a little pleat like that, and it's approximately 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes it will be a little bit less, and you can see I'm now taking that machine thread through. I'm going to come up again, and this time I will have come up approximately 1/16 of an inch from where I went down. So here we are, up once more, and I'm going to just take this little, see how I'm doing it, just pick up that little pleat, bring it back over my fingernail, which seems to help, I find, and then I'll just take that through, and I'm going to just continue doing this, going round those French knots in the middle. Now I do find that it's helpful if you keep your ribbon going like that. So we're constantly turning it like that, taking the ribbon out in front of us like that. It just makes it easier to pick those pieces up. Now you can see that I have another one here, and I've got to you can see how I've got to the end of the first one, and I want you to just notice that when I brought that machine ribbon up, it's just underneath there. It's not right to the bottom, of course, but then I will just continue to do that in exactly the same manner until I've got something which is the size that I want it to be. So you can see there I am just picking it up, putting it down, and you can see how that little point is there like that, and then pulling it through. Of course, when you get to the end, just take it through to the back. You can see that this our French knot, no, it isn't a French knot with this one, is it? Goodness, it's just a straight stitch like that, and then just as we always do, that fly stitch around it, just like that. And how easy can that be?
Well, I think you make everything easy, Beverly. Thank you so very much for being here with me today.
It's been a pleasure, Martha.
And now I would like to share something from my vintage collection, chosen especially for you. This is one of the most magnificent pieces in my whole collection, and I just want to share with you some of the details. This is the most beautiful neckline, and it has the lace pieces. It's a square neckline. The lace pieces are mitered, and then over on the edge you see there's a gathered lace edging, and underneath it it's insertion and a batiste strip, insertion, gathered lace edging, insertion, gathered lace edging. And I'm going to pull it over here so you can see this is a little extra piece that's been added on top of the dress. The sleeves are magnificent with the insertion, and notice the lace is gathered at the bottom of the insertion, 2 rows of that, and then at the very bottom 2 rows of insertion and gathered lace edging. This motif in the middle is absolutely beautiful. It'd be so beautiful done in machine embroidery, so it could be created with your machine embroidery, and also it'd be beautiful done in hand embroidery. But the design is magnificent. It's about 100 years old. Now the waistline of the dress is really pretty. It has maybe 1/8 of an inch folded tucks about 3/4 of an inch apart, maybe 1/2 an inch apart, 2 rows of insertion. And do you see how the tucks, the released tucks, go down a little bit on the skirt? So you see the tucks started right at the high waistline and came down to the skirt. Then the skirt itself is absolutely magnificent. It has a row of insertion, 3 beautiful folded tucks about 3/8 of an inch wide, more insertion, more tucks, more insertion, more tucks, and it comes all the way down to a beautiful hem, which is just simply folded up and straight stitched to the dress. As is true with the Victorians, as you already know, the back is as beautiful as the front. That same motif has been put on the center back. As a matter of fact, this back is exactly like the front. The same motif is on the back, and it's so interesting how this seamstress has figured out a way to undo the buttons. You see the buttons went right through the motif, and actually this little piece slipped out also and is attached over here. I'm so glad that you came to be with me today in my sewing room. I hope you've had fun, because we certainly have. And really, I'd just like to invite you to join me next time.